Yo, how's it going, you guys? It's Market Scraper, and there are some interesting things going on with the 100 period moving average, as well as our trend line here. And let's take a look at some things we got right, some things we got wrong, and let's take a look also at Tesla stock and Palantir stock and see what's going on with them and if I've been making any moves lately. Okay, let's jump into this. But before we get into this video, if you get any value from this content, don't forget to put a smash down on the like button. It really helps this content, helps other people see this video. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, well, let's take a look at the S&P 500 and also the idea of, do we want to try to dodge a stock market crash or a stock market correction? My initial thoughts on that, some strategies, and we're going to have this conversation. Basically, I'll try to throw in some more tidbits about dodging a market crash, my thoughts. I'll do some more research on it. I guess the first thing I want to mention about that is that we have these trends that we've been following. And if you were following a trend that was more of like the last low points here, you could see that this was forming quite a beautiful trend. And we could see that we had this nice trend forming here, and we finally broke this trend here. So one kind of move could be, okay, I'm going to stay long a stock until a trend breaks. And you could definitely avoid some gnarly moves with that kind of strategy. Like if we look back over here, that strategy would have worked well with dodging something like this. If you had some kind of a trend here that you are following and you're like, okay, well, if we break this trend, I'm out. And then if you broke the trend and you're out, you would have saved a lot of pain. At the same time, it's not that simple though, because like if you just held on as well and literally just bought the dip and just had a different strategy, you could have done amazing, right? Because it's like, okay, you can sell out, but when are you going to buy back in? You can buy back in there, you can buy back in up here. And if you do buy back in and you have the same strategy of selling out, well, when would you have sold out again? Well, maybe when this trend over here broke. Would you sell out here thinking that there's going to be a major correction, missing this massive move to the upside? Yes, I think you can literally dodge moves to the downside. But the question is, will you miss some gains to the upside? Absolutely. Will you miss the optimal opportunity to jump in on the downside? Absolutely. So it's basically, what can we be disciplined in? And basically, if you can be a buying the dip machine, that is something that I'm more inclined to do. Basically, if you see moves to the upside, massive moves to the upside, like for me, this whole time period over here, this is when I was basically selling some stock as we go to the higher bound of our channel. We have this channel on the upside and also this channel on the downside. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm selling some stocks when we're at the top of this channel, and I'm buying when we go closer to the bottom of this channel or even closer to the midpoint of this channel here. In addition, I'll be using the 20 period moving average too. I'll be using moving averages as well. Kind of that's where I can time my buys and just basically trim some positions. And we're talking about medium term positions. We're talking about long term positions. I'm just sitting put, sitting pretty, right? I'm not touching those. But in terms of my medium trades, swing trades, and more shorter term positions, I'll be deleveraging things. Any options we're talking about. We're talking about more leverage plays too. So that kind of stuff. I'll be selling as the market gets more frothy, and I'll be buying as the market starts to go down. That doesn't mean we can't go even lower though. So we got to keep that in mind though. If you're going lower, well then I'll be buying more. If we're going higher, then I'll be selling more. That's how that happens, and that's how that, these are strategies we can implement. Yes, we can dodge a market correction and market crash, but you have to find a way to be disciplined and not get caught up and just not make smart moves. I bet you that of this move to the downside, those that tried to dodge this move and those that did, were they better off than just holding and buying the dip? I'm not sure. I'd say that it would be pretty hard if you were in and out of the market here and you miss this violent move to the upside. People definitely did this though, selling out here, buying the low, just having discipline though. That's what you have to do. So if you're gonna try to sell out and buy the dip, basically, you have to be committed to a strategy essentially. Okay, let's take a look at this. What's going on right now? Are we bullish? Are we bearish? We can see here that we talked about in our last update, literally, we were right over here. We talked about that. It wouldn't be surprising for us to go back to our trend line one more time and test this right around here. Well, we definitely did that, except we actually broke through it. Interesting. So we were going somewhere, and then that was to retest this 100 period moving average. Now, the question is, we are kind of sandwiched between this trend and the 100 period moving average. And which direction are we going to go? Are we going to break to the downside? Or are we going to start to break to the upside? Let's take a look at some historical charts here of the S&P 500. Let's just go back in history to see if we can find out a bias of where, if we should be more bullish or more bearish. So let's take a look over here. Let's go back to the spot that we've been comparing lately in general. So we do have an area. It's not the same exactly, but we have the 100 period moving average down here when you have two touches here. Well, this would be a bullish sign. And this is a interesting area where it's a second kind of dip, right? So we have some similarities here. So this is definitely something to pay attention to. Let's take a look and see if we can find something even more similar in the past, basically, to give us some insight. Well, if we look over here, we have a hit of the 100 period moving average here. It is also similar in terms of the velocity of the move to the downside, then a move to the upside, and then a second move to the downside, retesting this down over here, having a couple of hits, and this was again bullish to the upside, but only momentarily, and then we broke below it. So that's something to pay attention to. That's a possibility of, yes, we go back to the upside, but we could go back down to the downside. So there are a few things in history, and if we see, these type of things over here, let's take a closer look. This is common too. We have to be aware of this idea that we have a couple hits, one candle to the downside, and then a move to the upside. That is also common. So this is my bias from looking at these things. What I think that could possibly happen, and none of this is financial advice, is just me looking at this chart here and drawing some stick figure lines, but we can see here that we had two hits. So my bias right now is more on the bullish side in the short term, but tomorrow's candle could be a move to the downside for all I know. I don't know if tomorrow's candles will move to the downside and then move to the upside finally, or if we're going to see a reversal come tomorrow already and a trek to the upside. And then we're going to be testing this 20 period moving average. And then from there, we're going to see if we're going to be more bullish or if we think we're going to see even lower lows. So that's something that we're going to be reflecting upon and watching closely. So we're expecting more of a bullish move. Again, tomorrow is kind of dicey of, are we going to be going a little bit below here? So we'll see what happens there. But in general, in the short term, we're expecting a move to the upside. Let's take a look at what's happening with Tesla stock. So not much is happening with Tesla stock. We've been expecting this kind of just grinding higher, and we've been doing that, hitting this resistance here, and then now we're kind of going our move to the downside before maybe another move to the upside. Again, just this grinding. And then let's take a look at Palantir stock. If I'm doing anything over here, we talked about in the last update that for the highs here, all we've been expecting is higher highs than over here. Check. So we did that. What else do we think is going to happen with Palantir stock? We're getting this structure, a higher high, higher low, higher high. We are expecting a higher low now. And we talked about in the last updates in terms of the low of this move, where we thought we would go. And that's basically what these rectangles are. We see a ton of consolidation in this area, and we're expecting to see price hold in this area. And so we are definitely approaching this area. It is interesting that we broke below this moving average so easily. That is a little bit bearish. At the same time, in this move over here, I bought 80 call options, and I bought a lot of options back over here too. Made about a little bit over 3,000 in selling those options over here. And with this move, over 6,000 in terms of the profit with selling those options, 6,000, whether that's a lot or not a lot, it doesn't really matter. The main point here is that I am starting to accumulate options again. I only had 3 options left. Instead of having only 3 options, now I have 20 options. I'm starting to buy options again because we are approaching and well within our range of where we think this next bottom is gonna be essentially. So we're in that range. And again, if we go even lower, well, I'm gonna be buying more options on this stock. And can I lose all this money? Absolutely, I can lose all this money. So be aware of that. But at the same time, I'm playing with house money basically, and I'm going to keep my strategy. Basically, I bought options down here, bought options over here. I'm going to buy options again. In terms of the amount of options I buy, if I buy less than 9,000, I'm still going to be in the green on the options in terms of this is just playing with profits so far from the options I've made in the past. So, and that's another testament about my thoughts on dodging a correction and dodging a crash. My thoughts are I'm embracing this. I'm not trying to dodge this. The reason why I'm selling out is because, in terms of my options before, is just simply because I am seeing this pattern essentially, right? I've been talking about constantly that I think we're going to go in this kind of pattern here. For a while until something else changes. But at the moment, I'm still convinced that we're still in this pattern here. And how low will this go? Well, we will see. We think that the low should be right around where we are right now. Well, as long as we don't make a lower low than right over here, this pattern is intact. Well, I hope you guys got some value from this content. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'll catch you guys in the next one.